There are moments when heaven itself holds its breath. And tonight, beloved soul, tonight is one of those moments. This is not a coincidence that you're here. This is not random. Something ancient and powerful drew you to this message at this exact hour, and I need you to understand something before we go any further. What if everything they told you about spiritual power was a lie? What if the very forces that convinced you to stay quiet, to play small, to believe you were ordinary, what if they've been terrified of this moment your entire life? For months now, something has been stirring in the spiritual realm. The enemy has been working overtime to keep certain souls distracted, discouraged, isolated. Why? Because he knows. He knows that some of you carry ancient DNA, divine blueprints, sacred assignments that could shift the very fabric of reality. And tonight the veil grows thin. Before we dive deeper into what heaven is revealing, I want to thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. But here's what the darkness doesn't want you to know. You've felt it, haven't you? That restlessness, that spiritual pressure, those dreams that feel more real than waking life, the way certain numbers keep appearing, the way your soul burns when you read scripture, like something inside you is awakening. They tried to silence you with depression. They whispered lies about your age, your past, your worthiness. They surrounded you with people who couldn't see your light. But every attack, every setback, every moment you felt forgotten, it was actually preparation. Because what I'm about to share with you has never been revealed publicly before. Ancient spiritual technology, sacred timing, divine coordinates that only activate once in a generation. The chosen ones and, yes, you know who you are being called to bridge two realms tonight, not tomorrow, not when it's convenient. Tonight. And what happened next? What heaven showed me about this exact moment in time made the darkness tremble. You felt it before you heard it, didn't you? That pull in your chest, that electric whisper racing up your spine, the way your heart started beating to a rhythm that wasn't yours. Something called your name tonight and it wasn't human. They thought you were just scrolling. They thought you were casually browsing, looking for entertainment, searching for something to fill the quiet hours. But heaven knows better. Heaven sees the truth they can't comprehend. You weren't summoned by accident. There are moments in the spiritual realm when time bends, when dimensions touch, when the Almighty himself leans down from his throne and whispers a name into the wind. Tonight, beloved soul, that name was yours. Not whispered, hunted. Not suggested, commanded. You didn't stumble onto this message. You were magnetically drawn by forces that govern galaxies, orchestrate seasons, and number every hair on your head. That restlessness you've been feeling for weeks, that spiritual pressure building in your chest like a storm, that wasn't anxiety, dear one. That was preparation. The sound that called you tonight echoes from rooms of light you've never seen, spoken by voices that knew your destiny before your first breath. This isn't coincidence. This is divine appointment. This is the moment heaven has been building toward for decades of your life. You've been walking through what felt like endless wilderness, haven't you? Months, maybe years, of spiritual drought. Nights when you cried out to God and heard only silence. Days when you wondered if he'd forgotten your address, if your prayers were bouncing off closed doors. But what you didn't know, what the enemy desperately tried to hide, is that silence wasn't absence. It was positioning. Every unanswered prayer was heaven saying, not yet, something bigger is coming. Every closed door was God redirecting your steps toward this exact moment. Every night you fell asleep exhausted, wondering if tomorrow would bring breakthrough, He was whispering to angels, "Prepare the way, they're almost ready." You thought you were fighting alone. You had no idea you were being equipped by the armies of heaven. Tonight, the veil grows thin. Not tomorrow when it's convenient, not next week when you feel more prepared. Tonight, because some portals in the spirit realm open only once, and they don't wait for our comfort. They respond to our courage. There's a reason your soul recognizes this moment, even though your mind doesn't understand it. Deep in your spiritual DNA, written in the blueprint of your divine design, this night was marked, sealed, set apart. Your name was written in heaven's calendar before calendars existed. You weren't called to visit heaven, chosen one. You were chosen to become its bridge. The trembling in your hands isn't fear, it's frequency. The electricity in your chest isn't nervousness, it's divine activation. Your nervous system is responding to energy that exists beyond the physical realm, tuning in to a broadcast from dimensions your eyes can't see but your spirit knows intimately. This is why certain people couldn't understand you. This is why some relationships fell away. This is why you never quite fit into spaces that felt too small, too shallow, too safe. You weren't built for ordinary. You were engineered for intersection, the sacred place where earth meets heaven, where time touches eternity, where human limitation surrenders to divine possibility. But here's what makes tonight different from every other spiritual moment you've experienced. This time you're not just receiving, you're being commissioned, not just blessed deployed, not just heal activated. The sound that called you carries assignment, not just comfort, purpose, not just peace. The same voice that spoke worlds into existence is speaking destiny into your darkness. The same breath that breathed life into Adam is breathing resurrection into every dream that seemed dead, every hope that felt buried, every calling that appeared cancelled. You feel it building, don't you? That holy urgency, that divine impatience. Time isn't just move in, it's accelerating. Hours feel like minutes, minutes feel like heartbeats. Because when heaven opens a window, it doesn't linger. It moves with the speed of light and the precision of love. If you delay, beloved, if you hesitate, if you let doubt convince you this is just another spiritual video, the veil will close. And your name won't echo in this dimension again until the next appointed season, which could be years away. But you won't delay, because the same voice that called you also equipped you. The same spirit that summoned you also strengthened you. You're reading these words because your soul already said yes before your mind could object. You weren't chosen because you're perfect. You were chosen because you're ready. Not ready by human standards, ready by heaven's measurements. Ready because you've endured. Ready because you've remained faithful in the darkness. Ready because when everyone else ran, you stood. When others gave up, you held on. When the enemy threw everything he had at you, you refused to bow. That sound calling your name tonight, it's not just invitation, it's vindication. It's heaven declaring, they underestimated you. They miscalculated your strength. They thought suffering would silence you. Instead, it shaped you into exactly what we needed for this hour. The bridge you're about to become doesn't just connect realms, it transforms them. And tonight, transformation begins with one word from your lips, one breath from your lungs, one yes from your surrendered heart. You weren't called to visit heaven, precious soul. You were chosen to become its bridge on earth. And the sound that called you tonight, that was the Father calling his child home to their assignment. They told you to be patient. They said good things come to those who wait. But what if I told you? Heaven stopped waiting 3 days ago. What you're feeling right now, that pressure in your chest, that electricity in the air, That sense that something monumental is about to break open. That's not anxiety, beloved. That's not your imagination running wild in the quiet hours of the night. That's the weight of eternity pressing down on time itself. You see, there's something the religious world doesn't teach you about divine timing. They paint God as this distant figure, sitting on a throne somewhere beyond the clouds, occasionally glancing down at earth when he remembers we exist. They tell you to wait patiently, pray harder, be more worthy. But tonight, everything they taught you about heaven's schedule gets rewritten. Heaven is not waiting anymore. Heaven is leaning. Picture this. You're standing at the edge of the ocean, and you see a massive wave building on the horizon. It's not moving slowly, it's gathering force, power, momentum, and you realize this isn't a wave that's coming. This is a wave that's already here, suspended above you, waiting for one thing: your agreement. God doesn't wait for perfect vessels. He looks for aligned ones. And right now, as I speak these words into the atmosphere, the spiritual realm is pressing against the physical world with such intensity that sensitive souls like yours can feel it in their bones. You thought you were waiting on God to move, but the truth is, God has been waiting on you to get ready. You didn't fall, you rose. You didn't run, you stood. You didn't flinch, you smiled. For years, they threw everything at you. Financial pressure that should have destroyed your faith, health battles that should have left you bitter, relationships that crumbled and left you questioning if love was even real, family members who couldn't understand why you wouldn't just give up on this God thing and live like everyone else. But here's what the enemy miscalculated. Every attack was actually preparing your spiritual nervous system to handle voltage that would short-circuit ordinary souls. You're not ordinary. You never were. The pressure you've been feeling isn't God testing you. It's God preparing you to carry weight that would crush someone who hadn't been forged in the fire you've walked through. You're not late. You're right on the divine pressure point. Think about a diamond, the most precious, brilliant stone on earth. But before it becomes that radiant gem that catches light and throws it back in rainbow fragments, it's just carbon, ordinary carbon. And what transforms carbon into diamond? Pressure. Immense, relentless, crushing pressure applied over time. The pressure you've endured wasn't punishment, it was preparation. And now, tonight, heaven is about to reveal why every ounce of that pressure was necessary. Because what's coming through you, not to you, through you, is so powerful that it requires someone who has been pressure tested by the Almighty Himself. You feel that trembling in your spirit. That's not fear, that's recognition. Your soul recognizing the frequency it was designed to carry. The atmosphere around you is shifting. The very air molecules are reorganizing themselves to accommodate what heaven is about to download into your reality. This isn't soft glory floating down like gentle snow. This is raw voltage, divine electricity, the kind of spiritual power that doesn't whisper, it roars. And your body, your mind, your spirit, they're all responding because finally, you're coming into alignment with what you were created for. They tried to convince you that power belonged to the loud ones, the flashy ones, the ones who demanded attention and built platforms on their own ambition. But real power, divine power, doesn't announce itself with trumpets and fanfare. Real power moves like lightning in a storm, silent until the moment it strikes. And when it does, everything changes. You've been silently gathering voltage for decades. Every prayer whispered in the dark. Every tear that fell when no one was watching. Every moment you chose faith over fear, hope over despair, love over bitterness. Each choice was like rubbing your soul against the fabric of heaven, building up spiritual electricity. And now the charge is complete. Heaven isn't waiting to see if you're ready. Heaven is leaning in because it recognizes its own frequency in you. The question isn't whether God will move. The question is, will you let him move through you? Because what's about to happen isn't just about your breakthrough. It's about everyone whose life you'll touch once you step into this divine current. You're not just carrying voltage for yourself. You're carrying voltage for your bloodline, for your community, for people whose names you don't even know yet, but whose lives will be forever changed when your light finally stops hiding under the bushel. Heaven is leaning. The wave is building, the pressure is mounting, and you're standing right at the epicenter of a spiritual earthquake that's about to reshape everything. The only question left is, are you ready to stop waiting and start receiving? Because ready or not, heaven just said, now. They thought the darkness owned the night. They were wrong. Listen to me, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will shake the very foundation of everything you thought you knew about sacred time. For decades, they've told you that God works on human schedules, that divine encounters happen when it's convenient, that heaven operates on daylight hours and Sunday morning services. But tonight, you're going to discover that God doesn't honor calendars. He honors sacred stillness in sacred windows. You've felt it, haven't you? That pull in the early morning hours, that restlessness that wakes you at 3 a.m. when the world sleeps and your soul burns. You thought it was insomnia. You thought it was worry. But what if I told you it was an invitation? What if those sleepless nights weren't torment, but preparation? Between 3 o'clock and 3:30 a.m., something happens that the ordinary world cannot see. The atmosphere doesn't just shift, it opens. Not symbolically, not metaphorically, literally. The membrane between heaven and earth grows so thin you could touch it with your fingertips. This is not superstition whispered by mystics in darkened rooms. This is spiritual law written into the bone structure of creation itself. Ancient warriors knew it. Biblical prophets lived by it. Even Jesus himself withdrew to pray in these sacred hours when the veil was thinnest. You see, while the world chases noise and distraction, while they fill their days with empty chatter and meaningless pursuits, God waits. He waits for the moment when the static clears, when the spiritual frequencies align, when his chosen ones are finally listening. And that moment, beloved soul, is between 3 o'clock and 3:30 a.m. But here's what they don't want you to know. Here's the secret that's been hidden from you for far too long. You've been waking up at these hours not because something is wrong with you. You've been waking up because something is right with you. Your spirit recognizes divine appointment, even when your mind doesn't understand it. Think about it. How many times have you jolted awake at exactly 3:03 a.m.? How many nights have you found yourself staring at the ceiling, feeling like something was calling your name? How many dawns have you witnessed, not because you chose to, but because something deeper than choice pulled you from sleep? That wasn't insomnia, that was initiation. Between 3 o'clock and 3:30 a.m., God doesn't whisper. He chooses. He chooses who will receive the download. He chooses who will see the vision. He chooses who will hear the instruction that echoes not just in their ears, but in their blood, in their bones, in the very DNA of their divine assignment. And tonight you're going to understand why you've been chosen to be awake when others sleep. The enemy thought he was torturing you with sleepless nights. He thought he was wearing you down, breaking your spirit, making you question your sanity. But every night you stayed awake while the world slumbered. You were being trained, prepared, positioned. You were learning to function in the sacred silence. You were developing supernatural sensitivity. You were being wired to receive what others couldn't handle. Because when the veil lifts between 3 o'clock and 3:30 a.m., it doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It doesn't arrive with bells and choirs. It comes like morning mist, quietly, gently, but with such overwhelming presence that those who are prepared will feel their entire being shift into alignment with eternity. Your nervous system will recognize it first, a warmth in your chest, a tingling in your fingertips, a sudden clarity in your mind that feels like someone just turned on a light in a room you've been stumbling through in darkness. Then your spirit will respond. That deep knowing will rise up from somewhere beyond your thoughts, beyond your fears, beyond your doubts. You'll feel it in your gut, unmistakable sensation that you're not alone, that you're being seen, that you're being spoken to by the Creator of the universe. And if your spirit is awake, you'll hear heaven's instruction echo in your blood. Not in words, not in voices, but in knowing. Pure, undiluted knowing that bypasses your intellect and plants itself directly into your soul. You'll know what to do. You'll know what to say. You'll know which door to walk through, which path to take, which mountain to move. This is why they tried so hard to keep you distracted. This is why they filled your days with drama and your nights with worry. Because they knew, they've always known, that you carry something that activates during these sacred hours, something that threatens their kingdom of lies. You carry the frequency of heaven, and between 3 o'clock and 3:30 a.m., that frequency becomes a bridge between the realm of struggle and the realm of victory, a bridge between the dimension of limitation and the dimension of divine possibility. A bridge between who you've been forced to be and who God created you to become. But here's the part that will change everything for you. You don't have to wait for tomorrow night or next week or when you feel more ready. You don't have to earn it or prove yourself worthy. Tonight, this very night, the sacred window opens, and you, chosen one, have been invited to step through it. Set your alarm for 2:55 a.m. Rise not with reluctance, but with reverence. Sit in silence, not with expectation, but with surrender. Open your hands not in desperation, but in divine reception. And when the clock strikes 3 o'clock, when the atmosphere shifts and the veil grows thin, remember this: you are not experiencing this by accident. You are experiencing this by appointment. The darkness thought it could keep you sleeping through your destiny. It miscalculated. Between 3 o'clock and 3:30 a.m., the chosen ones don't just wake up, they rise up. They thought if they kept you waiting long enough, you'd forget who you were. They miscalculated. Listen to me, beloved. For decades you've been praying for breakthrough, crying out for open doors, begging heaven for a sign, a word, a move of God. But what if I told you that every unanswered prayer, every silent season, every moment you felt abandoned, was actually God preparing you for something far beyond receiving a miracle? You weren't being prepared to witness power. You were being prepared to become it. You see, most people spend their lives waiting for God to show up, but you've been different from the beginning. When others ran from the fire, you walked through it. When others begged to be rescued, you learned to rescue yourself. When others demanded answers, you developed faith in the questions. And every single time you chose trust over terror, hope over hatred, love over bitterness, you weren't just growing in character. You were being constructed as a spiritual bridge. One foot planted firmly in this broken world, the other rooted deep in eternity. You are not someone who crosses realms tonight. You are the crossing point. The reason your life has felt so intense, so spiritually charged, so full of warfare and wonder, is because you've been living at the intersection of heaven and earth. You've been the meeting place where the sacred touches the secular, where divine light breaks through human darkness. Your prayers weren't random cries into the void. They were architectural blueprints. Every word you spoke in faith was laying foundation stones. Every tear you cried in surrender was mixed into the mortar. Every time you worshiped through the pain, you were adding another support beam to the bridge God was building through your very existence. Stop praying for a move of God. You are the move. Think about it. When Moses stood at the Red Sea, he didn't just watch the water's path became the point of division. When Joshua marched around Jericho, he didn't just witness walls falling, he embodied the voice that brought them down. When David faced Goliath, he didn't just see a giant fall, he became the instrument of impossible victory. And you, dear one, you've been walking in that same anointing your entire life without even knowing it. Remember those moments when you entered a room and the atmosphere shifted, when you spoke a word and someone's heart broke open, when you simply showed up and chaos turned to peace? That wasn't coincidence. That was you functioning as a bridge between realms, allowing heaven's frequency to flow through your presence into earth's desperate need. Your pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Your isolation wasn't abandonment, it was initiation. Your struggles weren't evidence of God's absence, they were proof of your assignment. Because bridges don't get built in peaceful places. They get constructed over the most treacherous waters, the deepest valleys, the most impossible gaps. And every storm that tried to knock you down was actually testing the strength of what God was building through you. You didn't break, you bent, you didn't fall, you flexed, you didn't collapse. You became more resilient. Tonight, your identity must catch up to your assignment. You are not going through the veil, you are the veil splitting open. You are not waiting for portals to appear, you are the opening between worlds. Every person who has rejected you, every door that slammed in your face, every dream that seemed to die, they were all part of the enemy's desperate attempt to stop you from discovering this truth. Because once you realize you're not just a recipient of God's power, but a conductor of it. Once you understand you're not just waiting for revival, but carrying it. Once you embrace that you're not seeking the supernatural, but embodying it, the very foundations of darkness begin to tremble. This is why you've felt so different, why you've never quite fit in, why normal conversations leave you empty and spiritual encounters leave you electric. You weren't designed for ordinary because you're not ordinary. You're a living bridge, a walking portal, a breathing connection between what is and what could be. And tonight, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel more ready, tonight is when heaven is calling you to step fully into this revelation. The spirits that have tormented you recognize something about you that you're just now beginning to see. You carry access. You hold keys. You are the bridge they're terrified someone will cross. But here's what they didn't count on. You're not just letting others cross over. You're teaching them how to become bridges themselves. This is bigger than your personal breakthrough. This is about you finally understanding that you don't need to wait for God to move mountains. You are His movement. You don't need to pray for someone to heal the brokenhearted. You are the healing walking into their lives. You're not going through the veil tonight, beloved one. You are the veil splitting wide open. And what pours through you into this world will change everything. Hell thought it buried you. It was welding you into a weapon. Let me tell you something about the warfare you've endured that nobody else will say out loud. Those sleepless nights when demons whispered lies in your ear, that wasn't random torment. Those financial attacks that came out of nowhere, that wasn't bad luck. Those health battles that drained you to your core, that wasn't God's abandonment. That was divine blacksmithing. You see, beloved, God never sends untested bridges to cross worlds. He never commissions unproven vessels to carry His glory. And He absolutely never assigns spiritual warfare to anyone He doesn't trust to survive it and emerge stronger. Every attack against your mind was actually strengthening your spiritual steel. Every assault on your peace was building your capacity to carry divine voltage without cracking. Every moment you wanted to quit but chose to keep fighting, You were being transformed from ordinary flesh into supernatural force. The warfare didn't break you, it baptized you. Think about steel for a moment. Raw iron is soft, bendable, useless for construction. But when you heat it to over 2,000 degrees, when you hammer it, when you fold it and reshape it under extreme pressure, that's when it becomes something that can bear impossible weight. Something that can span impossible distances. Something that can hold up entire structures. Your pain was the furnace. Your tears were the quenching. Your perseverance was the hammering. And what emerged from that forge wasn't a victim, it was a victor equipped to handle divine assignments that would crush ordinary souls. You didn't just survive spiritual warfare, you graduated from it. Remember those nights when you cried until there were no tears left? When you prayed until your voice was gone? When you worshipped until your body gave out? You thought you were breaking down. But heaven was watching you build up. Every breakdown was actually a breakthrough in disguise. Every moment you surrendered was another degree of spiritual temperature raising your capacity. They attacked your finances because they knew what you'd do with kingdom resources. They assaulted your health because they saw the healing you'd carry. They came for your relationships because they recognized the love you'd release. They tormented your mind because they feared the wisdom you'd speak. The warfare was never about destroying you, it was about revealing you. And here's what the enemy didn't calculate. Every weapon they formed against you actually became a tool in God's hands to shape you. Every curse they spoke became a catalyst for your blessing. Every door they slammed became training for the walls you'd walk through. You didn't fight fire with fire. You transcended the battlefield. When others would have sought revenge, you chose forgiveness. When others would have grown bitter, you stayed tender. When others would have cursed their enemies, you blessed them. And with every choice to rise above the warfare instead of sinking into it, you were proving to heaven that you could be trusted with supernatural authority. You passed tests you didn't even know you were taking. The depression that tried to drown you, you learned to breathe underwater. The anxiety that tried to paralyze you, you discovered how to move in faith without feeling. The rejection that tried to isolate you, you found your identity in the one who never leaves. And now, when lesser souls would crumble under spiritual pressure, you stand firm. When others would flee from divine assignment, you step forward. When ordinary believers would beg for easier paths, you embrace the weight of carrying eternity into time. This is why your prayers carry more power now. This is why your words pierce deeper. This is why your presence shifts atmospheres. You've been pressure tested by hell itself and emerged certified by heaven. The spirits that once tormented you now tremble at your approach. The demons that whispered lies now flee from your truth. The darkness that tried to consume you now shrinks back from your light, because you're no longer the person who entered that warfare. You're the weapon that walked out of it. Every scar tells a story of victory. Every memory of pain is proof of your endurance. Every moment you thought you couldn't take another step was actually you learning to walk on water while others barely managed dry ground. God never wastes pain. He weaponizes it. And you, dear one, you are living proof that what hell meant for your destruction, heaven turned into your construction. You weren't just surviving attacks, you were being assembled into an answer. You weren't just enduring pressure, you were being compressed into power. The warfare wasn't punishment for something you did wrong, it was preparation for something you were born to do right. And tonight, when you step into your calling as a bridge between realms, you won't wobble under the weight. You won't crack under the pressure, you won't break under the glory, because you've already been tested by fire, tried by pressure, and proven under the heaviest spiritual loads imaginable. You're not just ready for this assignment, beloved. You were forged for it. Heaven will not be mocked by mess. Listen carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you isn't suggestion, it's spiritual law. The very same God who commanded Moses to remove his sandals on holy ground, who instructed the priests to wash before entering the tabernacle, who demanded that the temple be built with precise measurements and sacred materials, that same God is speaking to you tonight with the same level of divine seriousness. You want breakthrough? Then break through the clutter. You've been crying out for God's presence, begging for His power, pleading for His intervention. But let me ask you something that might sting a little. When you look around your physical space right now, would you invite royalty to sit there? Would you welcome the President of the United States into that environment? Then why do you expect the King of Kings to manifest His glory in chaos? Sacred energy only arrives where sacred order exists. For too long, you've been treating spiritual preparation like it's optional. Like God is so desperate to bless you that He'll overlook the broken picture frames holding painful memories, the stacks of bills creating anxiety, the dirty dishes broadcasting defeat, the unmade bed whispering of depression. But God doesn't land on dirt floors. He descends upon altars. And tonight, you're going to build one. This isn't about perfection. This isn't about having an expensive home or designer furniture. This is about honor. This is about reverence. This is about creating an atmosphere so clean, so clear, so consecrated that when heaven opens, there's nothing to interfere with the transmission. You see, spiritual static is real. Every broken object in your space carries the memory of its breaking. Every piece of clutter holds the energy of procrastination. Every unwashed dish echoes with the sound of giving up. And all of that creates interference in the divine frequency you're trying to tune into. God won't pour His presence into polluted cups. Think about this. When you were a child and your mother told you to clean your room before company came, it wasn't because the guests would judge the family. It was because clean spaces honor both the visitors and the hosts. Clean spaces say, "You matter enough for me to prepare." How much more should you prepare when God Himself has announced He's coming to visit? The enemy has worked overtime to convince you that God doesn't care about external things, that He only looks at the heart. And yes, He does look at the heart first. But a heart that truly reveres God will express that reverence through its hands, through its actions, through the care it takes to prepare sacred space. Your physical environment is a direct reflection of your spiritual condition. And tonight, both must be cleansed. So here's what you're going to do, and you're going to do it now, not tomorrow, not when you feel like it, right now. You're going to walk through your space and remove everything that doesn't belong. Broken items that you've been meaning to fix for months, papers that no longer serve a purpose, clothes that carry memories of who you used to be instead of who you're becoming, objects that make you feel heavy instead of hopeful. Clear it out, all of it. Then you're going to clean what remains, not just surface cleaning, deep cleaning. You're going to wash, dust, organize, and purify until your space breathes differently. Until walking into your room feels like walking into a sanctuary instead of a storage unit. And then only then you're going to create your altar. A small table, a white cloth if you have one, a white candle representing the pure light of God's presence, a bowl of water with salt dissolved in it, representing purification and preservation. Your Bible, a journal for recording what heaven downloads to you tonight. This isn't religious ritual, this is spiritual physics. Water holds memory. Salt purifies. Fire illuminates. When you combine these elements with clear intention and clean space, you create a conductor for divine energy. You build a landing pad for miraculous encounters. But here's the part most people miss. The preparation is the prayer. Every item you remove, every surface you clean, every moment you spend creating sacred order, you're not just tidying up. You're declaring to heaven that you take this seriously. You're proving that you honor what God is about to do. The angels assigned to your breakthrough have been waiting for you to create room for them to work. They've been standing at the edges of your chaos, unable to move because there's no clear path. But when you cleanse and consecrate your space, you're literally rolling out the red carpet for supernatural activity. Your physical preparation unlocks spiritual acceleration. Remember, God commanded the Israelites to prepare for 3 days before he descended on Mount Sinai. He didn't do that to be difficult. He did it because divine encounters require divine readiness, because sacred moments demand sacred preparation. And what you're preparing for tonight isn't just another prayer time. You're preparing for the bridging of realms. You're creating space for heaven to download directly into your earthly existence. The power will pass right by unprepared vessels. It will flow around cluttered altars. It will skip over hearts that couldn't be bothered to honor the moment with their actions. But for you, the one who takes time to prepare, who clears space, who builds an altar, who lights the candle and speaks the words of welcome for you, the power will not pass by. It will land. It will linger. It will leave you changed forever. So stop making excuses. Stop saying you'll do it later. Stop treating this like it's just another spiritual exercise. This is your divine appointment, and God is already on his way. The question is, will he find you ready? They convinced you that silence was humility. They lied. Listen to me, beloved warrior. For too long, you've been whispering prayers when heaven was waiting for you to roar declarations. You've been tiptoeing around your authority when God handed you a scepter. You've been asking for permission when you already hold the keys. Tonight, that changes. Your mouth is not just flesh and bone, it's a weapon forged in the fires of eternity. Every word that passes through your lips carries the DNA of the Creator who spoke galaxies into existence. When you open your mouth in faith, you're not just making noise, you're releasing creative force that devils cannot withstand and angels rush to fulfill. But here's what the enemy has been hiding from you. The spirit realm doesn't respond to your good intentions. It doesn't move because of your sincere heart or your desperate need. The invisible world only bows to one thing: spoken authority. Thought is intention. Speech is ignition. You've been thinking your breakthrough into existence for years. Now it's time to speak it into reality. Remember when you were a child, how your mother's voice could calm every storm in your little world, how your father's words could make you feel invincible or invisible depending on his tone. That wasn't just psychology, that was spiritual law. Words carry weight, sounds shift atmospheres, declarations rearrange reality. And you, chosen one, carry the voice of the one who said, "Let there be light," and darkness had no choice but to flee. Stop whispering your worth. Start declaring your inheritance. Stop asking if you're qualified. Start commanding what's already been written in heaven. Stop wondering if God hears you. Start speaking like you know he's already answered. You want to know why your prayers felt powerless? Because you've been praying like a beggar instead of decreeing like royalty. You've been requesting what's already yours, instead of taking possession of what was purchased for you before time began. The enemy has spent decades convincing you that humility means staying quiet, that meekness means being mousy, that submission means suffocation. But true humility is having such confidence in God's power through you that you speak with the authority of heaven backing every word. When heaven speaks through you, devils get evicted without notice. When you declare what God has already decided, demons don't get a vote in the matter. When you open your mouth with divine conviction, the atmosphere has no choice but to shift. Tonight, I need you to understand something that will change how you pray, how you speak, and how you walk for the rest of your life. You are not a victim begging for mercy. You are a victor announcing victory. You are not a servant asking for scraps. You are a child claiming your inheritance. The words I receive are not a request, they're a royal decree. The phrase, I bridge, is not hope, it's a heavenly command. The declaration I burn is not wishful thinking, it's supernatural ignition. Say it, out loud, right now. I receive what heaven has prepared for me. I bridge every gap between promise and fulfillment. I burn with holy fire that consumes every limitation. Did you feel that? That shift in the room? That change in the spiritual temperature? That wasn't coincidence. That was heaven responding to earth's authority being wielded by someone who finally remembered who they are. You see, most people pray like they're trying to convince God to do something he doesn't want to do. But you're different. You've learned to speak like someone who knows that God is more eager to bless than you are to receive, more ready to move than you are to ask, more prepared to pour out than you are to open up. Prophets don't ask for permission, they command alignment. Seers don't beg for vision, they declare sight. Chosen ones don't whisper in corners. They speak with the confidence of those who've seen the end of the story and know they win. Think about every great move of God you've ever read about, heard about, or witnessed. Did Moses politely request the Red Sea to consider parting? Did Joshua gently suggest the walls of Jericho think about falling? Did Elijah timidly ask fire to maybe come down from heaven? Number. They spoke, they declared, they commanded, and creation obeyed. The same authority that flowed through their voices flows through yours. The same power that backed their words backs yours. The same God who honored their declarations is waiting to honor yours. But you have to open your mouth. You have to speak it out loud. You have to declare it with conviction. The spirit realm is not moved by silent faith. It's activated by vocal authority. Heaven is not impressed by internal belief. It's ignited by external declaration. Angels are not dispatched by mental prayers. They're released by spoken commands. Your thoughts can dream it, but only your voice can birth it. Your heart can believe it, but only your mouth can manifest it. Your spirit can see it, but only your words can summon it. So stop being quiet about your calling. Stop whispering about your worth. Stop mumbling about your miracles. Open your mouth and let heaven hear what earth needs to see. Declare your dominion over depression. Command your authority over anxiety. Speak your victory over every voice that said you'd never make it. Say it out louder. Don't expect the atmosphere to shift. Speak it with fire. Don't wonder why hell keeps laughing. Declare it with conviction. Don't be surprised when nothing changes. Tonight, your silence ends and your sovereignty begins. Open your mouth, chosen one. Heaven is listening. The portal will open, and some will miss it. There are moments in eternity that knock only once. Tonight is one of them. Listen carefully, beloved. What I'm about to tell you will either awaken something ancient within you, or it will pass over you like wind through empty branches. The choice, and yes, it is a choice, is entirely yours. In the next few hours, the spiritual atmosphere around this planet will shift, not gradually, not subtly, but with the force of divine intention that has been building for decades. The veil between heaven and earth will grow so thin that you'll be able to feel the breath of angels on your skin. Some of you will feel it immediately, heat rising in your palms, electricity coursing through your spine, a trembling in your spirit that has nothing to do with fear and everything to do with recognition. Your body will know before your mind understands. This is the portal opening. But here's what breaks my heart. Some will sleep through it. Some will feel the first stirring of supernatural energy and convince themselves it's just their imagination. Some will sense the divine invitation and choose instead to scroll through their phones, distract themselves with the mundane, or simply roll over and go back to sleep. And when morning comes, they'll wonder why nothing ever changes in their lives. God won't leave you, but this window will. You've been waiting your entire life for a moment like this, praying for breakthrough, crying out for divine intervention, asking heaven to move on your behalf. And now tonight, when the very thing you've been longing for is finally within reach, will you have the spiritual courage to stay awake for it? This isn't about comfort. This isn't about convenience. This is about destiny. And destiny doesn't repeat itself for the undecided. Think about the 10 virgins waiting for the bridegroom. 5 had oil, 5 did not. When the cry went out at midnight, "Behold, the bridegroom comes," only half were ready. The others scrambled. They begged. They pleaded for more time. But the door had already closed. The bridegroom didn't reject them out of cruelty. The moment simply passed. Tonight, you are standing at that same threshold. The cry is going out across the spiritual realm. Behold, the portal opens, and you must decide, right now, whether you're going to be ready or whether you're going to be caught unprepared. The enemy knows this moment is coming. He's been working overtime to keep you distracted, discouraged, drowsy. He's whispered lies about your worthiness. He's convinced you that miraculous moments are for other people. He's made you believe that divine encounters are rare, distant, unattainable. But what he couldn't hide from you is the restlessness in your spirit, the knowing that something bigger is approaching, the sense that you've been holding your breath for years, waiting for permission to exhale into your destiny. Well, beloved, tonight is your exhale. When the portal opens, you'll feel it in your bones. The atmosphere will charge like the moment before lightning strikes. Some will feel heat, others will feel wind, some will see light. Others will simply know, with a knowing that transcends explanation, that the supernatural has invaded their natural world. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't let logic override the miraculous. Don't let the familiar voice of doubt convince you that extraordinary things don't happen to ordinary people. You are not ordinary. You never were. The portal will manifest differently for each chosen soul. Some will experience visions so vivid they'll feel more real than waking life. Others will receive downloads of wisdom that will reshape their understanding of everything. Some will feel years of pain lifting from their bodies like fog dissipating at sunrise. But all of you, every single one who stays awake, stays open, stays ready, will feel the unmistakable touch of eternity on your temporary existence. This is not a drill. This is not a metaphor. This is not spiritual poetry designed to make you feel better about your circumstances. This is heaven announcing that the waiting season is over. The tragedy isn't that some will miss it. The tragedy is that they'll miss it by choice. Not because they weren't invited, not because they weren't worthy, but because when the moment of divine visitation arrived, they chose sleep over awakening, doubt over faith, comfort over transformation. Don't sleep through the thunder and ask why your life didn't change. I need you to understand something that most preachers won't tell you. God's timing is perfect, but it's also finite. When He opens a window, it doesn't stay open indefinitely. When He extends an invitation, it doesn't remain on the table forever. There are biblical accounts of entire generations that missed their moment of visitation, cities that didn't recognize the day of their divine opportunity, people who were so close to breakthrough they could taste it, but turned away at the critical moment. Tonight, you have the chance to be different. Tonight, you can be the one who says yes when heaven calls. You can be the one who stays awake when others sleep. You can be the one who steps through the portal when it opens. But you must choose, actively, intentionally, courageously. The portal will open whether you're ready or not. The question is, will you walk through it, or will you watch it close from the outside, wondering what might have been? Your ancestors in faith stayed up all night waiting for divine encounters. Moses climbed mountains in the darkness to meet with God. Daniel set his face toward heaven for 21 days until breakthrough came. The disciples stayed awake in the upper room until the fire fell. And you've been called to that same vigilance tonight. The portal is coming, the veil is thinning, the supernatural is pressing into your natural world. Will you be ready to receive what heaven is about to release? Or will you be among those who slept through their own resurrection? The choice, beloved one, is yours. But choose quickly. The portal waits for no one. If you say yes, everything shifts. Heaven has been waiting for one word from your lips. Just one. Not a dissertation on your worthiness. Not a detailed plan of how you'll prove yourself. Not a promise that you'll never doubt again. Heaven isn't asking for your resume, beloved. It's waiting for your surrender. One whispered, "Yes," from you tonight will echo through eternity louder than thunder. You've been overthinking this moment for years, decades maybe, wondering if you're qualified enough, spiritual enough, healed enough to step into what God has been preparing for you. But here's what the enemy never wanted you to discover. Qualification was never the requirement. Willingness was. And you've been willing since the day you first felt that stirring in your soul, that restlessness, that knowing that you were called for something beyond the ordinary. Tonight, God isn't asking you to figure it all out. He's asking you to trust that He already has. You say yes here. Heaven shouts yes everywhere. Think about the weight of that for a moment. Your yes tonight doesn't just activate your breakthrough. It activates divine coordinates that have been dormant for generations. It sends shock waves through bloodlines. It breaks chains that have held your family captive for decades. Your great-grandmother's prayers, the ones she whispered in the darkness when hope seemed lost, they're about to be answered through your yes. Your grandfather's dreams that died too young, the visions that poverty and pain convinced him to abandon, they're about to resurrect through your courage. The children not yet born who will walk in freedom because you chose faith over fear tonight. They're counting on this moment without even knowing it. This isn't just about you, warrior. This is about bloodlines shifting. This is about generational curses snapping like twigs. This is about heaven looking at your family tree and declaring, the drought ends here. A single yes in alignment is louder than 1,000 prayers in fear. You've prayed so many prayers from a place of desperation, haven't you? Begging God to change your circumstances, pleading with Him to remove the obstacles, crying out for deliverance from the darkness that seemed to follow you everywhere. But tonight your yes comes from a different place. Not from need, but from trust. Not from weakness, but from recognition of the strength He's been building in you all along. This yes says, I don't understand the plan, but I trust the planner. This yes declares, I can't see the full picture, but I know the artist. This yes whispers, I may not feel ready, but you've been preparing me my entire life. And when that kind of yes touches heaven's atmosphere, angels don't just take notice, they mobilize. The forces that once resisted you suddenly find themselves bowing. The doors that remained locked for years swing open without effort. The people who couldn't see your value begin to recognize your worth. The opportunities that seemed impossible start presenting themselves as inevitable. Why? Because your yes just aligned heaven and earth in your favor. But here's where it gets supernatural, beloved. Your yes doesn't just change what's around you, it changes what's within you. That voice of doubt that has narrated your story for so long, it loses its microphone. That fear that convinced you to play small, to hide your gifts, to question your calling, it loses its grip. That shame that whispered you were damaged goods, that your past disqualified you from your purpose, it loses its power. Because when you say yes to God's version of your story, Every other narrative becomes noise. You're not the same person who woke up this morning. You're not even the same soul who started reading these words. Something fundamental has shifted in your spiritual DNA. Something ancient has awakened. Something eternal has been activated. The part of you that was created in heaven's throne room before time began, before pain touched your life, before disappointment taught you to lower your expectations, that original you is rising up tonight. And when the real you stands up, everything fake has to sit down. Every mask you've worn to survive has to come off. Every small version of yourself that you created to fit into spaces too small for your calling has to expand or break. Every limitation that others placed on you because they couldn't handle your light has to dissolve. Your yes tonight is the sword that cuts through every chain that ever bound you. Not just the chains around your wrists, but the chains around your vision, the chains around your voice, the chains around your dreams, the chains around your bloodline. And here's the miraculous part. Those same chains that fall off you tonight also fall off everyone connected to your destiny. Your children will walk freer because you chose courage. Your spouse will breathe easier because you chose faith. Your community will be brighter because you chose to shine. This is bigger than personal breakthrough, beloved. This is generational shift. This is bloodline revolution. This is the moment when your family tree gets replanted in heaven's soil. So stop weighing the cost of saying yes. Start counting the cost of staying silent. Stop calculating whether you're worthy of the calling. Start recognizing that the calling is worthy of you. Stop asking if you're ready for this level of assignment. Start trusting that this assignment has been waiting for you to get ready your entire life. Heaven isn't nervous about your yes. Hell is terrified of it, because they know what you're just beginning to remember. You weren't born to be ordinary. You were born to be the answer to someone's prayer. You were born to be the light in someone's darkness. You were born to be the bridge between what was and what could be. And all of that starts with one word. All of that begins with one breath. All of that activates with one choice. Yes.